Hello, you're watching Hornbill TV's Newsroom Bulletin. The Nagaland Cabinet has yesterday approved the creation of a separate district for the Pochuri community. According to spokesperson CL John and KG Kenye, this long-standing demand will bring administrative services closer to the people in the region. With Meluri declared as a district, it becomes Nagaland's 17th district. Meluri, previously the oldest subdivision under Phek district since 1958, was initially set up as a Chairman Bench Court and was later upgraded to a circle officer in 1959. As per the Pochuri Apex Body's memorandum, Meluri holds the highest mineral deposits in the state. Now, the state government has officially declared Meluri as Nagaland's 17th district, a move aimed at bringing governance closer to the Pochuri people and addressing long-standing demands. This significant step is expected to impact both the people and the regional administration in various ways. To delve deeper into what this means for Nagaland, I'm joined by our Associate Editor, Al-Nguli, live from the newsroom. Hi, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Naomi. Good morning.
Yes, sir, to start off, could you share us how important this is for Meluri being granted district status? How might this affect the region in terms of governance and infrastructure development and accessibility to essential services?
Yeah, I think it's very significant for the Pochuri people because this is, I think, a culmination of many decades of demanding a separate district of their own, Naomi. And of course, there will be arguments that say we have got a lot of demographics and peoples across the state of Nagaland who might be greater in population, and they say they are more deserving of a district other than all these districts being created. We will remember Temini also. And now we have Meluri. And of course, we have still what we call the surprise district, Chumugidima too. So in this process of creating new districts for the state, I think there might be people who might have maybe stronger arguments in regard to why certain people or certain demographics would deserve a district. But for the people of the Pochuri community, I think it's relevant for them. Of course, they're one of the smallest communities among the Naga people in Nagaland, but it is relevant to them because when we are talking about the idea of progress and development across the state of Nagaland and its people, then I think it also behoves on the government to include those ones who might not necessarily be considered at par with the other tribes. So it is very significant to them, and as the government has said, the whole idea is to bring development and administrative services right at the doorsteps of the people of Meluri or the Pochuri people. So there might be a small community, but they certainly will benefit a lot from this. And it also helps that the Pochuri people have been existing side by side with the Chakasang community, and they are closer to Phek, which means that I think they are going to avail a lot of opportunities through the cultural institutions, through the developmental imperatives, and through the trust that the Chakisang community has been enjoying over the years. The whole idea of backward category that the Chakisang people have been put in is an altogether different issue, but Phek district on its own, I believe it is moving forward, and the Pochuri people will be able to avail benefits from being declared a new district.
Right. Now, sir, the Pochuri community has long advocated for this district status. So could you tell us more about the key reasons behind their demand, and if we have to compare now, like you've also just mentioned, there's a difference between the Chagisang areas under Phek district and Meluri on the other hand. So now, sir, what could be some of the challenges, or what challenges have they faced up until now?
Well, celebrations aside, Naomi, I think at the ground level, they will have to wait for a little while to actually enjoy the benefits of development, as we put it, because it is not like suddenly you are declared a district and the next day you have your towns filled with highways and infrastructure and medical colleges. It doesn't happen like that. It'll take a long time, maybe even decades, for the community to have some kind of a semblance of growth there, because like I said, this is just an administrative category they have been given. This is not a development capital they have been given. I think we have to make the difference. One of the most damaging misconceptions we have about administrative categorization, such as declaring a certain area subdivision or declaring a certain portion of an administrative unit as a district, doesn't mean that everything happens just like that. It doesn't happen like that. Development doesn't come just like that. Maybe it'll take at least 10 years, 15 years to for the community to start seeing some changes. So that is one thing. And second, to your question, the reason why the community has been demanding a separate state of their own, I think in some sense, comparing to the so-called forward and advanced tribes, and compared to the equally the so-called backward tribes, I think the Putchuri people have mostly been outliers, Naomi. They have mostly been somewhat on the fringes of the Naga consciousness. I don't know, this is a funny story, but when we were in school in Woka, in Mount Sinai, those days, we used to think, because we have never, during the time we had never traveled outside Woka, we were in school, and most of us, the best that we had seen was Kohima. We've never traveled beyond that. And for a long time, we thought that the Putchuri and the Pom were actually Assamese people. For a long time, we thought they were not Nagas. We thought they were from Assam. So anyhow, I think the Putchuri people have been outliers. They have been demographic outliers in that sense. They have always been on the fringes of our developmental consciousness. And that is the reason why they could feel that they are not availing much of the infrastructural, developmental, administrative, and even educational capital that they could have enjoyed, just as the way the other tribes and communities across Nagaland were enjoying. So they felt that they were too much on the fringes, and I believe that was the reason why they felt that we need to have an administrative identity of our own. And they have been demanding this for a long time. And I've been observing conversations after the Putchuri people were given a district. And some of them say, what about Bhandari in Woka district? Or what about Tobu in Mon district? What about Aboy? And there are a lot of communities in Nagaland that have a feeling that they have been overlooked. And there are a lot of them also who demand an administrative identity of their own. But I think the dynamics here are different. Here, it's not so much about who is deserving more or who doesn't deserve. There are a lot of political considerations here, first thing. And there are also a lot of what you call the economic dynamics. So I think in places like Mon district, they have got a lot of coal deposits. And then towards the Phek areas, Meluri areas, I don't know. I was reading earlier in this regard to the mineral wealth that this particular area has. So I read that there were a lot of Christianites limestone, and even gold in the Phek and Meluri areas. I don't know how far this is true, but I read about a research paper that was online. So I think it must be of the government of Nagaland to actually look at people, not necessarily in terms of population. The Puchuri people, I think they have about 20 to 30,000 people right now, and they're one of the smallest tribes in Nagaland. And I read Aboy was somewhere in the region of about 4,000. I don't know how accurate this is, because every data that we have are all from data census to 2011. So we don't know how accurate it is, but I think we can have a fairly approximate number of the people of this demographics that we have in Nagaland who have been given a district status, or those who have not been given that identity. So there are people who say, let's say Bandari, we have got about 6,000 people or so. And on the other side, we have the smallest tribe, one of the smallest tribes among the Naga people, the Puchuri people. They have about 22 or 30,000 in that range. So it's not so much a single set of criteria that you have to fulfill. There are a lot of political dynamics also. There are a lot of developmental dynamics involved. And there is a lot of calculations that have to be taken into account before they are given an identity of their own as an administrative unit, NAMI. So business considerations will be there. Meluri is near Myanmar border. So now with the government of India looking towards the east with their previously look east policy, and now presently the act east policy. So I think there will be a lot of developmental trust in that area towards Myanmar with the government's Act East policy. So I believe that will also be one of the considerations that the government took in for them to declare a separate district for the Puchuri people, Nami.
Now, sir, given the recent demands from other regions such as Chaluki as well, Mangulemba, Pandari, and also Tobu area, like you have mentioned earlier, and more, do you foresee more districts being created in Nagaland to meet the demands of other areas?
I don't know, Naomi, because this whole district thing is, I mean, come on, we are not the Americans, we are not like the United States, where a lot of check and balances are there. And a lot of economic considerations go in, not in regard to populations. For example, the counties, let's say the counties in the south in the United States, Arizona, let's say Texas. When they talk of counties, they are not necessarily, county is an administrative unit. County, here we have districts. Here we have subdivisions. There in the United States, they have provinces. They have counties. So when you want to declare a place, let's say an SDO division in the United States, they won't look at how many members do you Ao people and Sema people or Lotha people have there. You don't look at a population. You don't look at how many of you are graduates. What is the salary median for your community in your area, so we can give you a subdivision identity. So in the United States, they don't do that. They look at the economic opportunity that is there for the people to build up some kind of an industrial foundation for them to contribute to the country as a whole. So there's a lot of economic consideration that goes in outside, but in Nagaland, it's slightly different. I mean, you know, you say it, you know, we are a tiny state. We already have the 17th district. So how many are we going to make it now? Because this is certainly going to affect the financial performance of the state in the long run. Because it's not like Meluri has a river of money running through that area. It's not like these people will suddenly, because now they have been given a district identity, suddenly banks will start coming up, business will start booming, and highways will run through them. It doesn't work like that. So it's going to be a burden on the state government as well, which means we will have to, especially starting from 25 to 26, the fiscal outlay will have to be much, much greater. In 2007, the state outlay was about 1,700 crores. And way back in 21, I think it was about 2,000, if I'm not mistaken, about 2,500 crore. So when you put an outlay in terms of that kind of an amount, and you have a new district that will demand its own share of financial confidence, that demands nothing more than crores, that means it's going to burden the state's exchequer, is going to increase the state's outlay. It is going to make the developmental planning a little more complex. I'm not saying it'll be difficult, I mean impossible, but it's going to make the planning a little more difficult, a little more complex, and of course we will need a whole lot of revenue, assuming that we have an industrial base and some kind of an economic framework for the state to hold up this many districts that is coming up. So the financial burden will be considerable, Nami.
Right, sir. Moving back to Meluri, sir. As per the Pochuri Apex Body's memorandum, Meluri holds the highest mineral deposits in the state. So, sir, do you think that there could be some risk, or do you think the district status will allow for better management and utilization of these resources?
I think it would be wonderful for us to get an expert in this regard, especially an economic expert, and maybe someone from the geology department, so that we can have a discussion on this, because I'm not qualified to speak on that. But I think we are very clear, and as I said earlier, I've been reading reports that shows that Meluri and the Phek area seem to be quite abundant in natural mineral resources. But then again, come to think of it, every time we talk about important issues, we are brought back to the reality that this is Nagaland. The Champang issue, natural gas, petroleum. We have not been able to really exploit and harness the potential of that resource for the state of Nagaland, even after more than 30 years. There have been a lot of controversy, and the controversy is still going on. The oil exploration that started way back in 1980, it was started midway in the 1980s again, somewhere in 84, when ONGC pulled out of it because of threats from the underground organizations and protests from the Naga community groups also. It has brought nothing to the state. It has brought nothing for the government. It has brought it has brought nothing to the landowners themselves also. Not all of them, at least, maybe some of them, but not all of them. So there are a lot of policy complexities involved in this. Today Meluri is a district, and now the community organizations and leadership of the Meluri people are saying we have a lot of minerals. We can use it. We can use it to develop this region, this new district. But then again, based on that, maybe it might have been one of the considerations for the state of Nagaland, for the government of Nagaland, to give them the category of their own. But it still wouldn't be proper for us to say that the mineral deposits, especially gold, if it is true that there is gold in Phek district, if it is true at all, then even if so, it is not something that we can harness just overnight. It's going to take decades, policies, planning, surveys, studies, and you are going to go into who is going to get the fruits of this, who is going to benefit from this. How much will the state be getting? How much will the people be getting? Who will be in charge of this? Who will be the oversight for these minerals and the wealth and the developmental capital that will come out from the minerals they have there in Meluri district now. So, or for the district for the people of, for the Pucheri people. So, a lot of stuff involved, Naomi. We can't say much, but I would, like I said, I would love to have experts coming in here and talking about it.
Right, sir. Now, lastly, sir, how do you think this decision will impact the state politically? Do you think that it might strengthen local representation for the Pochuri people?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Of course, I think that is one of the main reasons why the Meluri or the Pochuri people decided that they needed to have a district of their own. And obviously we have a new district. Very soon they will have to extend the Nagaland Legislative Assembly building there. And we have got a lot of new districts now. They are going to increase representation there, which means that the people have someone representing them who actually understand their problems, their issues. I'm not saying the politicians will help them out there. You know how politics is over the past, I don't know, 5,000 years. So I'm not saying they're going to suddenly turn the Pochuri people's district into a paradise. But one thing I do know is that they're going to certainly get at least 2-3 local representatives from their own, and their grievances will be brought straight to the administrative apparatus of the government, in the sense that now they have got an administrative identity of their own as a district. So it will help them. Local representatives will increase. There will be a developmental quota for them in that regard in the state's annual outlay. But as far as implementation is concerned, we cannot promise you anything.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for sharing us your insights, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Right, so that was our associate editor, Alnguli, joining me live from the newsroom to discuss on the topic of the Meluri being declared as the 17th district of Nagaland. Now, it's clear that Meluri's new district status marks an important chapter for the region, and with a potential to improve governance and community representation. We'll keep a close watch on how this unfolds for the people of Meluri and beyond. Stay tuned for more updates on this, and thank you for watching Hornbill TV.